Thanks for staying with us. The conversation continues, and we still have Mazi Chinedum Obiohayo with us. Mazi, just before that break, I mean, we talked about the judiciary, talked about the possibility of extending the Supreme Court justices, among others. Your final thoughts on this issue of the manifesto and the Labour Party's, plans for Nigerians?
I think, like I said earlier, I think beautiful, but let us see the implementation. Okay. Once again, I think they did well yesterday. The manifesto is a working document. People are going to work on it. Let it be that what is contained in that manifesto is what they are going to do. Not tomorrow for them to tell us we didn't say it. In fact, we are going to hold them accountable this time around. Okay. It's good.
Okay.
Well, let's delve into another topical issue, and that is the response of the 36 state governors to the federal government allegation that the state governors are the ones that are responsible for the increasing level of poverty in the country, especially as we saw the latest release by the NBS that 133 million Nigerians were now multi-dimensionally poor. And now the federal government is saying that the state governments are responsible for this, but the state governors are saying that no, it is your responsibility, especially to provide security, and that the lack of security, the kidnappings, the banditry in the country are responsible for the continuous level of or increase in the level of poverty in the country. What are your thoughts?
I think the state governors are very right. They are correct in their response to the federal government. They say charity begins at home. Remember, sometime last year, when they came on board second tenure, they said they are going to lift 100 million people out of poverty line.
10 years.
But now, with 10 years, but now what we are saying that before the 10 years, 133 million Nigerians are, we talked about multi-dimensional poor, which means someone who cannot afford $1 a day. That's worrisome. Why the federal government takes, I think, about 52% of the whatever monthly allocation, why the states and local government. It is not the same thing that is working. How many times corruption everywhere? Corruption. What about the school feeding? That was handled by the presidency.
Trader money.
Trader money. What about the rot in an NPC, where the president himself is the minister of petroleum and water? So it is just a pot calling kettle black. So I think, of course, you don't even when I witnessed when he said, I heard him say that, I say, well, you don't accuse the state government. Yourself, your hand is also soiled. Because there is corruption even in everywhere. Your ministers, have you checkmate them? Okay. Ministers are in cornering whatever money that comes their ways. Every time we talk about second Niger bridge, they said Abacha loot will be used for that. Still, they have budgetary allocation there. So what is happening? Now, some of the roads being constructed are inferior. Some of them are washing out. So the states themselves, like I said, who plays a part at the Tezi tone. Now, the state governors, when the federal government passed executive order about the autonomy of judiciary and local government, and the same state governors that went to Supreme Court and quash it, the man has up. What happens? And the Constitution has a way of its not helping matters because it is the local government allocation. It's going to be a joint whatever. It's going to transmit from the state to the local government. What happened? The president said, what happens when the allocation comes? The state governor will call the chairman. How much is it? Bring your salary schedule. How much it is? Look at this. And this is what is happening. No development in the local. Unlike what happened in the First Republic, where we have all these federal rules. Look, there are some. We talked about physical federation, where there should be responsibility for local government.
Local government.
What you just said, Maz, reminded me of what Atiku Abubakar said at the debate yesterday, that during his tenure with Obasanjo, that they tried to ensure that they could pay the monies to the local government directly, but then they quoted the constitution saying that it wasn't in line with the constitution.
Later on, they discovered that it's against the constitution, that it has to pass through the... And that is what is happening. That is why I said the kingmakers.
So the constitution has to be reviewed.
It has to be reviewed.
But it has been amended. It must be said. This
but that part of the constitution,
autonomy of local governments, it has.
The states refuse now. They know what is happening.
It can't be approved without the
Exactly.
Out of how many? It's only 13 states that have passed it. What happened to the rest? But you know what happened? The local government chairman, the Nuga, I think the Nuga, that's their local government, whatever. Went are in support of this thing because the primary school salary will be there.
Yes.
The whatever will be there. It has to, because they know whoever is the chairman of local government benefits a lot. So the chairman of local government will call, this is how much is your own school. So corruption unlimited. So that is, you see, we are running a system that nobody is taking responsibility. Nobody. Assuming we have a working, when the allocation comes, federal government, this is our own. Even with that less than 50%, it's about 48 or 7%. State, this is our own. Local government, it goes straight to the local government. Then that is why some state governments don't want to conduct elections.
Exactly. They come in and they just, and
those conducted under their own supervision, the whole party wins all.
Exactly.
And they reduce it from 3 years to 2 years. And some have not even conducted local government election. They have what they call caretakers. Appointing Samson, appointing Bola, appointing this one. So that, look, if you mess up, I'll throw you away.
But isn't this the issue? When we talk about strong institutions and the need to have a vibrant system so that, we elect good leaders and the nation works, it's the fact that those benefiting from the status quo and they won't want it to change.
That is what is happening. The state governors now manipulated, call the local government chairman. Look, I was the one who put it there. If you allow this, so it, out of 36 states,
only about 13.
13. The other was what happened.
But we've seen states like Rivers and Delta come out to defend themselves, to say that we always give the local government what they deserve.
Come out and say, local government chairman, he said he even invited EFCC. And the Governor Samuel Elton said it, but when the chips are down, with their hands be clean as they said it. We knew that.
You're saying if proper investigation is done.
That's what I'm saying now, when they are not there. When they are not there.
When there's no more immunity.
Yes, when they are out of immunity. But the issue is this, the constitution is part of the problems we have. If the constitution is rightly amended, that the local government allocation should go straight to whosoever, to the local government concern. But look at
what we have right now, the state governor.
Look at my problem. One state and the north has 40-something local government. I know that of Kano. I know Kaduna. I know Kasida. I know Bredu. I know Kano. Having as many as 40-something.
44 local governments in Kano.
One commissioner from Kaduna said the vote from one local government in Kano outnumbered the whole vote from Southeast. Does that not tell you anything? It was probably done to make sure that they remain in power. They are vastly populated, scantily populated. They count everything. It is only, look at even the issue of collecting your PVC. In the north, it is
readily available
everywhere. They won't take it to the mosque. They won't take it to the street. But here, they say come to any office.
That's why you have cases of underage voting.
Everything. Then because they don't, you see, until we get the system right too. Somebody suggested whether we bring back the British to come and conduct or whatever.
That would be worse.
No. You see, this time around, that is why they are afraid for this election. That's why they are burning INEC offices here and there. But in the north, have you had any INEC office being burnt? Within the past 5 months, about 7 INEC offices burnt in the south. You are destroying your own. Why those people?
Let's
They got
bring
the
this
voice.
back to, you know, the verbal attacks between the federal government and governors now. If the federal government, yes, you said the governors are right in their own postulation to how the federal government is also culpable in all of
Yeah,
this.
because look, in those days, they not produce ice and skin, cotton,
Yes.
granite, beans, and what have you. In the West, here, cocoa, also palm oil, and cola nut. In the Southeast, oil, coal. Where has coal gone to now?
Enugu,
Nothing.
precisely.
Everybody. We have in Kalaku cement industry, all those one done. We have Eagle cement in Benue. We have so many things.
Perhaps the discussion of restructuring would come in.
That is what I say.
West states would be able to
Look at
develop their own natural
as I was
resources.
coming. You said, I don't need to build breweries where alcohol will be produced. And you go from street to street arresting people selling beers and things like that. But you want to benefit from proceeds
From-
that is
That's what
hypocrisy.
about the VAT.
So that one has died though. It has
It's
died.
still in court, by the way.
It has died. It has died.
No,
So
yes.
this issue now, when we say restructuring, use what you produce. That is why some local government every morning they go. Let me use this Odugbongo local government. I went there sometime. I was going to one of your sister television, and I decided to enter. I saw some elderly men as old as myself, even senior me. They go there, they sit down, do nothing from morning to night. With their bed. Lagos State, River State, Kano. I think it's not because of constitutional matters, they don't need allocation.
They should run themselves.
Because what they generate internally here can
Not
take
to
care
run
of it.
the states.
So, but then, because of what is, and that is why so many states are very lazy.
Oh,
The local government people are lazy. The government depends solely
on federal allocation.
on federal. They are watching time.
That's it.
With one eyes on the clock. What is today's date? Commissioner for Finance. You go
waiting
to
for allocation.
So that's the problem.
But Maz, even if all of these states start looking inward, developing their resources and building their internal revenues, what about security? That's why they are pointing the fingers back
is
at
why I
the federal
said
government.
they have the response by the governors right. You see, no, like I said, in those days, the Northerners were not used to coming out. Very few of them. They like to go to their farms. They are in Benue. They produce yam. They eat yam. Yam. In Bronu, they produce maize. They produce beans. They produce granite. I was in Dapchi. Dapchi and Bamari, they are very close. In Bamari, they produce white beans. I was also in Geshua in 1983. Those places, in Sokoto, 1975, I was there, where they produce rice and skin for all these leaders. So where are those things now? What about the rice pyramid? Where have it gone? What about the maize pyramid? We saw it in Abuja. Where are the pyramids now? That is all. So, but then, in those days, farmers were free going to the work. They stay late. But today, somewhere in Hamofun, Enugu State, they can't go to farm. Soka, they can't go to farm. Even the Accuses side, they can't go to farm. North, you can't go to farm. Benue, you can't go to farm. So, but then, is it not the person who is alive will go to farm and come back? That is why we have shortage of food crisis, and it's going to be more. It's going to be more.
Okay, Mazi.
So it is the responsibility of the federal government to make sure
that security,
to protect life and properties of the citizens.
I pretty much understand that. Let's take for instance, we're presuming now that the security, with what we have obtainable now, do you really think the entire 36 states can survive on their own? And I'm saying that because there are certain states that you look at the internal resources they have, it's probably not enough in that sense to really get them going in terms of presiding over their affairs. So we know the likes of yes, Rivers, Kano, Lagos, you know, those major states can't fend for themselves. But there are certain states that in terms of manpower, in terms of the resources, in terms of the industries, they are lacking. So how do you expect them, again, this is projecting the security in the land, how do you project them to go through in terms to survive in terms of catering for their needs? Now, taking into cognizance that not everyone will delve into the agrarian revolution in terms of agriculture.
Some of these states that were created by Babangida,
Okay, yes.
and I think Abacha,
Yes.
were created out of selfish interest. Some of the local governments also were created to outsmart the other people.
Not because of minority calls?
Now, some of the states created were not supposed to be created.
Okay.
And I want a situation where what happened during the time of Soludo in banking industry, where some banks were merged. Some of them, if you ask them to stand on their own, they cannot. Because laziness has become their next name. They've now abandoned what, even there's no road when they go to farm there's no road. So your question and my answer is this: some of these states will not be able to stand on their 2 feet.
Exactly.
But what about collaborations with other states that have in excess?
If you have restructuring, you consume what you produce. That does not mean that you have a good market. You can now carry up what you produce to other people.
Exactly. But Mazi, we have to wrap it up. We're really short of time.
That's a very look at if Gare, you produce Gare. In my village, we feed the nation. We feed the Abia state. Even though we produce Gare. On Saturday, come to see our market. But you know what happened? The local government makes 250,000 each Saturday.
Let's leave it there, Mazi. No state is an island. Even those that you think have all the resources still need to, work with other states to feed and fend well.
Thank you
so much, Mazi Chinedumobioha, for your insight on the show this morning. We wish you a pleasant day.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.